Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 62 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Grace, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hey guys.
And EJ.
Hey everyone.
Today, we'll be talking about season 3, episode 14 of 911 Lone Star, titled Impulse Control. I'm pretty sure it should be titled Lack Thereof. But that's beside the point. Let's get talking.
So we start off at that fast food call. Lovely. Not to mention
I still haven't placed the woman. I still haven't placed where the woman's from.
What?
Anyway, beside the point. No, the wife.
Uh-huh.
I haven't placed where I've seen her before.
Yeah, I can't place her either.
I'm pretty sure she's been
To
on
look her
one
up.
or both shows before.
I forget. I did research her because, like, I know we had this conversation where, like, we're like EJ's like, is that the girl from the plane? And I'm like, I thought the same exact thing. So I
Yeah.
literally looked them up and stuff because they could be sisters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look so much alike. The same like hair.
Yeah.
They have their hair kind of similar style.
I looked her up and then I found out she was like in another show I watched. I was like, okay, maybe that's why. But they also, I just think they look similar. So she had that. I forget what shows she's been in. I know she was like in Grey's Anatomy and she had like a pretty like minor but decent role in that. But I can't remember anything else. Anyways, so the family's at the drive-thru or whatever. And okay, the kid that was like taking their order was super like he was being super fresh with them and like being so rude. Like if I even dared to talk like that to people like at work, I would literally get in so much trouble. Like sometimes the sass comes out, but like I keep it like at a good medium tone, not like that. He was just like, and like they had ordered like a bunch of food and then like the wife specifically ordered chicken nuggets and she was like, I think it's gonna be like a bad nuggets day, so she got like 12 instead of like 9.
Right.
I don't get the sizing difference. I'm just gonna say, who has 3 more nuggets in an order? That's beside the point. I just don't get it.
A lot of places do that. I don't know why. It's like
it's 3 nuggets.
I know, might as well just take 3. And like they're kind of like going back and forth and like it's like then
the call box, you can't hear anything that the guy's responding with. It sucks.
No, it's a bad speaker. It must be a bad feedback.
Yeah, and
I'm guessing bad feedback, but yeah.
Yeah, so like the nuggets aren't there, so they're arguing about that. And so then the kid thinks he has the right to say something like, oh, she doesn't need the 3 because she's like, I don't need them, and he's like, she's right, she doesn't need them, and he's like, the dad's like, oh, what did you just say? And then of course he goes to the window and I'm like, you did not just say that. That's the first thing in the call that made me so mad because I'm like, you really don't say that, like you don't, no, you don't do that.
Yeah. And as somebody who's a larger person and I hear that, I'm like, yeah, that pissed me off. I was like, okay, 1, that's unprofessional. 2, that's just plain ass mean. And there's no excuse for it. There's no excuse.
It's not all business what people eat, or like you don't understand like people's like, you don't know what she's been through and like you don't know. So like
exactly,
it's not your business to make comments like that. Like no. But yeah, of course he goes to the window after the kid and gets stuck. And it's just like, yeah, okay.
So I'll be honest, at first during this scene, I was more focused on the customer interaction. So I didn't even hear a lot of what the kid was saying. So I was a little confused until I started getting the context. And I was like, oh, wait. No, this wasn't just the customer getting all male Karen on a customer or something. No, like this kid was actually being
yeah. He was
like it took me a bit to figure that out. And when I did, I was like, oh, wait.
Yeah. I feel like he instigated a lot that happened, and like if this was actually the focus, because this is real life, any good person, any good manager would be like recommend you for doing anything that he did. Because there was so many
honestly,
things
with repeated remarks, not just one bad slip up, repeated remarks and stuff, should have been fired.
I agree.
Well, and I think too, it was frustrating because like, okay, so the guy, when he got his food, he was like going through it, and the kid was like, you could tell the kid was frustrated because he didn't want to go, like didn't continue on like you're supposed to. He's like, oh no, I'm checking first. He's like, I've learned to check because I sometimes, don't, which totally makes sense. But the kid didn't need to take an attitude about it. And that's, I think, what started it. And then when she's like, oh, don't worry about it. And the husband's like, oh no, you're going to get him. And it's like, okay, I think you can just deal with, and like, I don't know.
They should get what they ordered for. The kid should not be fresh. But also at the same time, it's 3 nuggets.
Yeah. Well, and the kid said, I charged you for 9. So it's not like he was overpaid for, he paid for 12 and got 9. So in that case, the guy should have just dealt with it. But I get the show was trying to portray somebody that had anger issues. That wasn't Owen,
But it's definitely a back and forth of both of them should not have been saying the shit they were saying, but the kid should have shut up.
And then, and then the 126 has to respond. And of course, like, how do they have to get him out? And then the name calling and I was disgusted at how many people were actually taking a video of that, like showing it. Like, I thought that was disgusting.
And we know it's being posted all over TikTok and social media and stuff. And I'm like, okay, there are sometimes, like, if I saw that nonchalantly just anywhere, I'd both be feeling sorry for the guy, be laughing a little bit at some of the lewd comments, I'll just be honest. But like, that's one of the most humiliating moments of your life. Self put into or not. Like,
it's one thing to record something like that, which I would never do, than like somebody that's actually acting like a fool. Like, that's different. But this guy, that's just humiliating.
It's literally just for the sake of humiliation.
It's humiliating enough
and that's
for
like,
him.
No. And the people that are just crowded inside the restaurant, like not even going around their daily lives, like they're just there watching, laughing. Honestly, that's enough to give someone anger issues. Just because that sheer humiliation.
The scene gave me enough anger issues, honestly.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. So
if I hadn't been watching it for other things, I honestly probably would have just fast forwarded through most of these calls, because honestly, I was like, whatever. I'm getting the point, but it was honestly too much for me.
Yeah,
I didn't necessarily mind watching the show. It's just me personally. Like, I didn't particularly mind watching these parts, but that didn't mean that I particularly liked all of the content in there.
That's true.
Like, overall message wise, like, I found the storyline really interesting, but the individual scenes, like, there were definitely the issues. Like, I see where y'all are coming from with that. Like, I fully get that.
Yeah, it's just like, personally, I've always had like issues when I go into certain like places where people were rude, so like stuff like this kind of like sticks out for me. But anyways, so they get him out of the window, but I really liked how like Owen kind of was like, oh, maybe you should get therapy or whatever, something like that, and him being like I went to therapy, and he's like, you did? No, you're lying. And Mateo and Marcia are like, no, he did. Like,
and I think the worst thing, through all of okay, so I get, like, Owen was like encouraging the guy to go to therapy, and and I'm like, the guy was probably not believing him because Owen's this big like fire captain kind of thing,
right?
But then at the end, when that teenager came back out as they're wheeling the guy outside, and he throws the box of chicken nuggets on this, because the guy had seen that they were putting more chicken nuggets in the fryer or whatever, and he said, I think he called him lard ass, and I was like, that is beyond that pissed me off.
Because that was something this wasn't something that started with the kid. That was something that started just from the crowd in general. However, for that alone, the other stuff, reprimand, possibly fire. For that, fire. Like, that
was so
completely uncalled for. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Yeah, I can't, like, when I rewatch this, definitely skipping this scene. Not gonna do it.
Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever rewatch this episode.
Honestly, yeah, I could take this episode or leave it. Like, it's not like I liked
it. Was a good episode.
It was good
content.
Good content.
It's there's nothing in it. Like, it dealt with some of the storylines we've been dealing with in this season, but it's one of those where it doesn't connect a lot of dots for other things.
I think, like, overall storyline wise, episode is good. And we'll reiterate this, of course, at the end when we talk about our thoughts. But like the storyline wise and watching these scenes initially is good for the storyline.
Mhm.
But there are definitely different parts and different scenes that are definitely like, okay, fast forward 15 seconds. Oh, we're still there. Fast forward another 15 seconds. That kind of thing.
Right.
Anyways, let's move on to the twins' birthday party. Love seeing Grace and Judd and Charlie there. That was so cute.
Oh, yeah, it was so cute.
Gosh.
And this is like their first birthday, obviously, without like Charles. And it's like, it's so cute, like seeing it. And then, like, of course, like we meet Julius. He walks in, and Charles' younger brother. And
like, I guess way younger brother, like quite a few years younger.
Yeah.
I couldn't honestly get a good grasp on his age, but between them saying like younger brother, him looking much younger, and also, oh, his parents had him late in life kind of thing. It sounded like Charles was still a kid when they had him, like of some sort.
Yeah.
But
that's what it means.
There was definitely a gap. I won't be surprised if there was like 10 years or maybe even a little bit more.
I agree. Yeah. So he shows up, and Tommy's like ready to kick him out. Because
from the get-go.
And just like, wait, calm down like a little bit. And then like she's like, no, like he didn't even show up to his funeral, like he's gotta leave. And like understandably so. But like the girls are just so happy to see him because, like, you know, he's the fun uncle. Like, and so like she kind of like kicks him out, you know, that happens. And this is just like one of those scenarios where I'm just like, okay, I want to know like what more of this is about. Like, why did he skip the funeral? Like, I'm at this point of the episode, I was just wanting to know like what that whole storyline was about.
Yeah, I was curious too. And then it was like, wait, this has only been so this is the girl's first birthday since they lost Charles, but I thought this has been at least a year since 2008. So I'm like, how is this possible?
Well, it depends when their birthday is, if you think about it. Like, it depends like when. Honestly, a lot of things confuse me. And then of course the next day Judd and Tommy are talking about it on shift, and when Judd has things to say, he has the way he stands, like the way he like it's
kind of casually
just trying to get the information, get the whatever, and he's like asking her how she's feeling, and she's just like fine, like I'm and he's like, well, when Julia showed up, you kicked him out, and then she's like, then I was fine, and then like she says how like Charles would make excuses for him, and how he like charmed Charles, and like he didn't even have like he couldn't even show up to his damn funeral and stuff, and like they talk about that, and like Tommy kept calling him a sunshine child, and I had never heard anybody say that before.
I've never heard
what
that
does
term.
that mean?
I feel like I've heard that term, but never really heard what it meant. Like,
I
just heard it in
Googled
passing.
it, and I'm like, I don't know if this is what she was referring to, because it was like when I Googled it, it was like sunshine child or like the same thing as a rainbow baby, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely not what Tommy meant.
Yeah,
because context. I mean, it could be. I'm not saying it's definitely not, but like, because Judd's the only reason why I don't think it is because Judd said something like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with a sunshine child." And I'm like, are we talking about babies?
Well, yeah, so
that's
I think
a baby of the family,
right? Well, yeah, he's the baby of the family. So I think that's where they were getting is the context of he is the baby of the family, and they could have had a miscarriage because I know a rainbow baby is technically the one after the first one after miscarriage. I think that's how what they use that term with.
I'm not really sure if it's maybe yes, it is like it is like the baby after like, and
the vibe I was getting from it was that sunshine meaning that he was the kind of the parents had him late in life, so like they were already maybe close to 40 when they had him.
That would make more sense.
Charles was a little older, so this kid could do no wrong. And
I guess I'm a sunshine child.
I'm gonna have to look that up too.
No, so this whole time I'm like, okay, obviously it sucks they didn't turn up the funeral, but I'm more curious about him at this point in the episode because I'm like, I didn't get like a douche vibe off of him or a bad, like an inconsiderate vibe or anything like that. Like he just kind of seemed a little gentle and out of place and unsure. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be a reason that he didn't. We already know at this point the only number he had was Charles. So obviously he couldn't reach out. So I'm like, okay, was he in the hospital somewhere? What happened? Because at this point, I wasn't thinking he necessarily missed the funeral out of his own violation or his own free will. So I'm like, okay, I just want to hear what happened before I really figure out what kind of person this is.
Exactly. Like, definitely was very curious about all that. And then, of course, Marjan goes to talk to Owen as she does. And she like brings up the dad from the drive-thru. I mean, they're all like calling him lard ass because of like the whole situation. And I'm just like, and Owen's like, that's mean. And Martian's like, oh yeah, I'll tell Mateo that. And I'm like, I don't know.
It would be Mateo to keep that going though.
Yeah. And like,
and I'm not saying that as a bad thing.
No.
But I feel like he's like one of those, how do I put, like frequently on TikTok laughing at the kind of jokes, not really thinking about, the implications behind a name other than it's just a joke. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, just kid. That's the only word I have, like a kid in that respect. God, I made him sound younger than me anyway.
Yeah.
We know he's not.
And I get it mostly came about because of like them having to use lard to get him out, but I just
on his ass. Yeah.
Still not very cozy with that. But when asked like, oh, what's going on with him, and Marjan says how like she was impressed that he had talked about therapy with him and stuff, and Marjan asked Owen like why he stopped going to therapy, and I was just like, I didn't stop, I finished.
And here's just one thing, you never finish therapy.
No.
There is no set end date. There's no end goal. Well, it depends what kind of therapy, if there's like a specialized type, but overall there, like unless you're in a specialized program,
right. Yeah.
There's no end point. There's always a reason to go to therapy, even if your life is amazing.
I was taking therapy, and the problems I was seeing them for, I was able to work through, and they were confident that I could work through them on my own without the need of continually seeing him. So I guess you could say I graduated, but Owen definitely did not graduate. He just dropped out.
Owen just like got what he needed to like, do what he did in the beginning of this season.
Yeah, he checked the box off.
Owen just like checked off that box. It was like, okay, finished that goal. Now what's next? I guess I'll I don't know. That was definitely the mood. And then of course, like Marjan brings up like, oh, like it seems like you stop before you punch the last two guys. And Owen had like, it's of course like, oh, those are three unique circumstances. And I'm like, sure they were. No, they were.
We'll go with that.
We'll go with that, exactly. And then Marjan like then asks like, oh, about his last meltdown with Catherine the other night, and Owen is like, how do you know about that? And Marjan's like, you do know who you live with, and didn't you talk to Judd? And it's like, Mateo, we all know Mateo can't keep a secret, and also like, didn't you talk to Judd? And then like Owen tells her to mind her business and that it is above her pay grade, and Marjan says, with all due respect, as a team, his emotional well-being is their business, which no, that's not true.
Not necessarily.
Do
they have a valid reason to be concerned? Yes. Of course they do, because they are under his leadership. However, as well-meaning as I know they are and everything, they don't have a right to that area of his life, they do have a right to be like, not necessarily a right, but it's not wrong of them to suggest therapy. But they don't need to know anything that goes on with that.
Yeah, my whole thing with it is like, you can be like concerned for somebody and ask how's it going, or be like talk to them about it, but like there comes a point when you cross a line. Is he doing his job? Yes. Is he like doing it effectively? Yes. Is like,
do you even notice do you notice an improvement? Is he punching less people? Yes, that's all you need to know.
Yeah, if he hadn't been doing his job effectively, that'd be another story. Like, yes.
He'd be punching Billy because Billy would be confronting him. We don't want to go back to that.
Let's not.
We haven't been done in a while. I mean, no, I think
I want him to come back, because you make it into a bad storyline. So let's not. But I do push him a little bit. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Wait, can we have him babysitting Charlie? I want him to babysit Charlie.
That would be cute.
That would
be very cute. Okay?
That'd be cute because he would know what he was doing.
No, he'd just be like this guy, like.
And Grace would be that mom that like checks her phone every 2 seconds, like, is she okay? Is she okay?
So, so Owen, kind of even told Marjan, so tell your co-conspirators, because he quickly realized that they were sending her up, I guess, to soften the blow. I actually was kind of bummed. I'm kind of a little mad at TK that he was part of said group, because I'm like, you're his son. You have every right, and more so
to them. Yeah.
Honestly, he has much more right than Marjan to go up and talk to his dad about that.
Marjan's the only one that has the courage.
Yes. However, I would say that, seeing as that is his son, that would be a conversation for at home. I'm not sure this is the best conversation for in the firehouse on shift. For one thing, if you get a lot of negative feelings stirred up, obviously when you got on calls, you need to put your emotions, like, you need to be professional, but still they're only human. So if you go out irritated on a call, it's possible that might bleed through. And so you just don't want to steer that up on shift. Even if just for the sake of, like, tensions in the firehouse. Not everyone needs to be around that. So it would be nice to have seen TK do it and at home.
Yeah. And I just think back to like in season 2 when he kind of staged that little intervention for Owen. That was with TK. Yeah. Can we do that again? But like make it stick. But there again, like, I think, because we've talked about this, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week or last episode, that Owen, this going to therapy, Owen's just been doing it to check a box. He's not been doing it really for himself. And I think that's what this episode was kind of trying to drive in for Owen.
Right. Yeah. Like,
and this was when I started realizing, like, oh, okay, this is starting to kind of point at him. And
like they're finally starting to address that, which, oh, thank God. Like,
dang time.
Yeah, we've all been waiting for that, like, and stuff. And so like we see like Owen look down and see like TK, Paul, Mateo, and Nancy just standing there, and it's like, okay. Yeah.
We're doing nothing. We're being perfect angels. We're totally not waiting for the results of this conversation. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Like, yeah, we all, of course. Yeah, Marja's just like the only one that has the nerve to, like, I feel like, address things.
Well, and she's confronted him about it before, so it's not surprising to come.
She's not afraid of confrontation, which is a good thing and a bad thing sometimes. And I have spoken my mind about how I feel about her inserting herself sometimes. In this, I don't necessarily mind it. I just kind of wish that, maybe we'd had someone else take up that for one person to burning buildings and you can't talk to your captain or your dad. But also that is a thing with people with anger management issues as well. Like, I understand some people may have actually been a little bit afraid to broach the topic. Not of him necessarily, but of just kind of causing an argument. I know I've been that way with people that definitely have anger issues before, or like emotion control issues before. It's not easy. So yeah. But honestly, unpredictability is the hardest thing when you don't know what they're going to do.
Right. Yeah.
Therapy, people, it works.
Yeah. So then we get to the wrestling match, which of course, all these calls are connected, which I knew that before watching this episode, but I was curious of like, how were we gonna see these connected? And so then of course, same families at this wrestling match, and they're, and like the other opponent, whatever, his dad or whatever, I'm assuming, is they're talking shit, and of course Hal's getting like all like mad, and it's like, it's a wrestling match, people talk shit, sports in general, people talk shit. That's how it works. I don't even watch.
I did have an issue with that, which granted, like, hearing that, I've never watched a wrestling match in my life. I don't know how wrestling matches go. But like, hearing that, I'm like, okay, that's true. But also I have an issue because these are kids. And so some of the things that were being said, I'm like,
yeah,
okay, I would have an issue if I heard someone saying that to my kid. Sport or no sport.
Yeah, I mean,
you would have to contain
if they were
with an angry mother in that case. Not one acting like this dad, but still a rather pissed off one.
Yeah, okay. I get that, but like also they're like 17, 18-year-old possibly kids. Like they're not like in middle school.
It's still a formative year. I guess I've just had enough full words directed at me in those times of year, like that time and younger, that I'm like, no, that's not what I want my kid raised around. Even though I know I can't control other people's actions, that kind of thing. But like, I don't like the words being thrown around. That is not to excuse anything that happens. That's just me saying, why are y'all saying that to kids?
Right. Yeah. Like, I understand.
Like, when did this become normal?
Right. Yeah. I understand it more if they were like younger, because obviously there's more formative years. But like at this point, like if you're in like high school, you need to build kind of a backbone a little bit. And I'm sure a lot of parents in sports have said that. And like that's just the nature of the environment around this type of sport. There's a lot of smack talk.
Yeah, and it was weird because like the dad was trying to rile his son up, I think more to kind of get him to be a little like toughen up a little.
Of course.
It was really bothering me because the kid didn't seem like he was like, it's like, why it at first it got the vibe that the kid was trying to ignore his dad, like he didn't want to listen to him, he was just trying to, like, I don't know. But then as it got heated, and then like you could see the escalation of the anger on Al's part about the words that were being said, and the dad of the other kid was like trying to encourage his son to like push harder, be better, throw him down, all that stuff, which I've never watched wrestling. I
don't like it, like, personally, but
I'd rather I know there are some similarities, but I would rather watch football.
So I kind of I don't know if I looked away or somebody called me when we were watching it, but did Al go after the kid first, who was like trying to pin his son? I thought he went
after the dad.
Or did he go after the dad first?
That sounded like he went after the kid.
No, he went
so
after
I'm not actually sure.
Kid.
That's not okay. You don't go after the kid.
No.
Which, yeah, and that's what I was trying to say.
Middle-aged man going after a kid?
Yeah, like, why? No. You're at your kid's wrestling match. He's going to be competing against. He's going to win and he's going to lose. You don't go, just because your son gets pinned down, you don't go chasing off the kid in a match, like a sports sanctioned event.
Even if it was a dirty move, which was what he was claiming, even if he was, do not ever do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the one thing I don't like with sports, is the parents get way too into it. It's like, stay in your own lane. Like, don't just let the kids, like, play a sport. Like, they obviously want to play a sport for a reason. Like, just let them do that. But of course, it escalates and he gets stuck in part of the bleachers. So I'd like Owen showing up and being like, I don't want to admit that I recognize the view, or I don't want to say that I recognize the view. I'm like, oh boy. And then of course they like recognized him and whatever, and so they get him out, and they're like, his pants split, and I'm like, okay, after this whole scenario and you going after a kid and just everything that happened, that's kind of karma,
right? Oh, it's full on karma.
Yeah.
And see, his issue is that he had intense blow-ups, and then he feels the remorse, he feels the shame, but it doesn't feel it in time to stop it.
Right. And that's,
And
I think, what
it's
Owen
like
and
he
some
has
of the
no
others
processing
yeah.
capability to be, oh wait, remember what happened last time.
Right.
It's everyone around him telling you that, and he explodes.
Yeah.
And I think even while they were trying to get him out, Owen wrote the name of his therapist
He
down
did.
and gave it to him. And I think this was like the tipping point for this guy, because he was realizing, like, I need to get my shit together, because now he's like, within like a couple of days, he's, you know, had 2 huge blowups that have caused impacts to his family.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently there's been some other times in the past, because there was a mention of like, oh, we don't talk about Six Flags or whatever. So apparently something happened there.
That was
now
funny.
I just really want to know what happened at Six Flags.
I do
Me
too.
too.
What happened to Six Flags, please? No,
And,
yeah, because it was just funny, because it was just like Nancy's like, what happened at Six Flags? And it's like, we don't talk about Six Flags.
We don't talk about Bruno. Anyway,
I was thinking
exactly
that too.
That's where my mind went. We don't talk about Six Flags. No.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is
yeah, like this is interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
With the other drama, Tommy seeing like the thank you notes from the twins party, and then this one where it's very detailed, where they apologize, sorry for our mom, blah 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 blah. Of course, it's to Julia's, and it's funny seeing Tommy's reaction. Like, was this meant for me, or what's going on with that? And
yeah, because the girls were like talking about how, like, we're sorry that mom kicked you out, and we wish you'd be here more often. And I was like, oh
no,
because the girls love him and want him around, and he's just never been, and she's never been a big fan of his.
Yeah, I think Tommy said something like he's shown up 4 times within their 11 years, which I can't believe they're 11. What?
Yeah.
Like what?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so of course this prompts Tommy like later to invite him over later that night, and they kind of air things out with alcohol, my dad.
Yeah. There goes your impulse control when you start drinking. Just saying.
It's totally true. Like, especially like I kind of understand. I 100% understand that when you're talking about the things they're going to be talking about, you kind of need to be impaired a little bit, because it's kind of awkward talking about the things they're talking about.
Yeah.
Just a bit, but the topic of like him skipping the funeral comes up, and he's like, I didn't skip the funeral. I was parked out front. Like, I saw you, like, you and the girls walk in, but like I couldn't get out of the car. And
there's some deep grief there.
Yeah, like yeah, and we see that from like both of them, and like because he starts breaking down and like saying like, oh, like, I bet you hate me or something, and Tommy's like, I don't hate you, I could never hate you, like, and they both say how like they miss him, and of course there was a moment and they kiss, but they both pulled away so fast. And then like she makes him wait.
I didn't even realize it had happened until after the fact, because I was cooking and I turned away just at this moment.
Yeah. Right. See, when it happened for me, like when I saw it the first time, I knew it was gonna happen. Like probably like 30 seconds before it happened, I was like, they're gonna kiss. And then it happened and I was like, what the heck was that?
Right.
Like, why? What was the reason for all that? There was no reason. Like, what? Did you just want to compete with 911 and just have 2 terrible kisses on both shows? Just saying.
Relationship issues. Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I didn't. It was like just like a rant. I don't know. It seemed like a heat at the moment, like random. Like, I don't even know what that was type of thing. And then like he's like talking about the girls, and she's like, what are you doing Thursday? And he's just like nothing, and she's like, okay, I gotta work, you're babysitting.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, there's there's that. That happened. Yeah, no thoughts, honestly. I'm just like,
I had a feeling that they would do this. And I don't really know if I necessarily put it to like words in my head, but like the moment it happened, I'm like, oh, I knew they'd do that. Because I was like, this will sound so bad. They made him too hot for them not to.
okay, you know what? Several people said, I think TJ and I talked about this. I think I saw somebody else say this. They were like, I don't blame Tommy, he was hot.
Oh no, I mean, please, he looked very nice. Yes, please. But seriously.
Yeah.
Again, another actor I also recognized from something, but what I couldn't place.
I have definitely seen him somewhere.
He has a very familiar face, but I looked him up and I was like, I have watched.
I just want to know, does he have one of those faces or something? Is it just one of those faces? I don't know, but like it definitely felt like I'd seen him somewhere before. And in the actual thing itself, there's nothing wrong. Both single as far as we know. Like on his part, we don't know for certain, but we assume. On her part, she's definitely single. Single, not a weird age gap, but it's like husband's brother only just got on speaking terms. Like it's weird. It feels like a bad soap opera. Like
it does. Everyone, I feel
feels like a soap opera plot, and I'm please no.
Please,
Lone Star, you're so much better than this.
Literally. Yeah, that
I'm just hoping they never take this any further, but why would they do this unless they planned on taking it further is my question.
I don't want to. My brain didn't even go there before now.
Sorry to curse everybody with that train of thought, but that is how my brain works. It analyzes stuff. And
as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, they're going somewhere with this. They wouldn't have done it if it wasn't going to happen. So I'm not
passing I'm not going to pass final judgment necessarily on the idea. However, I'm not comfortable with this necessarily. If you wanted her to date, have her go date outside the group, someone we've never seen before. Morris was nice.
Everything.
He's not past his wife yet, like in the ways that he needs to be to date.
Give it time.
Exactly. Give it a little bit more time. I don't know. I'm not thrilled.
I'm not either. Like,
and I'm disappointed that they did the thought that I was like, oh no, that they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't, and then they do.
And then they do, and I'm so disappointed. Why do you let me down like this Lone Star?
Why? Like, I already don't like in shows when like somebody dies and then their significant other like it's dating the best friend. Like, I already hate
the best friend, the brother, someone who had a close connection to the husband. It just feels weird.
It feels wrong in my book.
No. As much as keep this in mind, I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying what it feels like. If anything feels like cheating, that does. Even though the significant other is dead.
No, it does.
Like that feels like cheating more than going out with a complete stranger. Because that's someone they both knew. Like it just feels weird. Yeah. Anyhow, so we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind seeing Julius more just for simply the fact that I kind of like his character and I want to see him with the girls because that was what we see is really cute. But please don't carry this further.
Seriously, like keep it platonic, please.
Let that just have been a one-time slip up that no one ever speaks of again.
Okay. Yes. So then we get
moving
on. Then we get Owen and Catherine. They meet up or whatever, and like Owen kind of admits that he feels bad for mixing up her ex and her father-in-law. And Catherine's words, she was like, "Oh yeah, for saying that I had an old man fetish."
I wanted to barf the moment I heard that term, but like, yes,
that makes me feel like less. Somehow, that makes me feel less bad than what Owen had said. I don't know how.
I think she both phrased it nicer and more bluntly,
and
I'm like, okay, it works.
So she basically, she gets all like excited because she's like, oh, like I'd like to date you, And
well,
she's
they
like,
both agree they still really like each other. That's the agreement. And understandably, he thinks they're back together because that they kind of sound that way, I'll be honest. But then she's like, I'm not gonna date you until you go to therapy, which I know we had to talk that I'm gonna let Katie talk about that because that was mainly her point, I think it was.
yeah. Okay. So like I don't mind at all that she says this. I don't mind that. Like I actually think like obviously it's good. I want him to go to therapy, but I wanted to go to therapy for him. I don't want him to go because of her. So when she says this, I have no problem for her saying this at all. Like she has her rights. She has her opinions. It's fine. But it is like an ultimatum, however, which angle you look at it. It's very clear, which is fine, like, and stuff. And she's not holding it over him. So it's not really problematic for me. I still will see it as an ultimatum because that's what it is. But I have no problem with it. I'm like, I just want him to like, I want him to go to therapy for him, not for her, which I had a feeling that he wouldn't go for her, that he would kind of see his own faults that he needs to work through and his own just things, how he has to better himself. But I'm also like, you don't have, I mean, I know you guys want to date, but you don't really have to. And like, you shouldn't date him if you think there's issues there. Like, trust your own worth, but also like, I don't know, like I don't feel uncomfortable with the situation. Like I don't mind it, but I'm just like, you can't look at this and say like, oh, she wasn't bringing up an ultimatum because she was.
It was, and not to say that ultimatums never work in a situation. Like sometimes they do. Sometimes it does get people to do the thing, but it's not always the right reason. As you pointed out, therapy is one of those things where you won't keep with it unless you want to be doing it.
Yeah.
And so like there is the hope that someone makes you go to therapy and then you discover it's good. That was my experience. Not that I never wanted to go to therapy, but someone forced me to because of bullshit circumstances. And I stayed with my therapist after the circumstances were resolved because I really liked her. But honestly, the circumstances that forced me in, for a lot of people, would have forced people right back out because it wasn't my choice.
Right. Yeah.
And for completely the wrong reasons. But, I'm doing therapy. I love it. I think she knew that he is a good guy. She knew like his worth. She knew the good things about him. And so that's why she did want to date him, but she also acknowledged there was an issue that couldn't be ignored any longer. And so she's completely in the right to like want to wait until he starts getting his shit together on that front. But I do see and agree with what you're saying about the ultimatum part because again, it doesn't stick.
Yeah.
But I was, as much as again, I don't think he would have gone in necessarily for her, like what you said. I think it was a break from hearing the same old from his crew and hearing it from a slightly newer person. It kind of put things into perspective. Oh, there might actually be an issue, even if he isn't quite up to acknowledging it yet.
Right. Yeah. And like, just think like, am I like, for me, like whenever I've been like told I have to do something or whenever I've been forced to do something, I just want to do it, not do it more.
You dig your heels in.
Exactly.
You maybe even want to go do the exact opposite. Like
exactly.
That's me. I did that.
So that's like, I had a feeling that like, I was like, well, she kind of says, oh, you need to do this. Owen might be like, no, I'm not. No. So that was kind of my, like, I guess, concerns with it. But it was definitely good that came up.
It was also good to see her because I do like their relationship.
I do personally. Like her. Yes, I do.
And she's grown on me even more since the beginning. Like, I liked her almost immediately from the beginning.
Same.
If I'm remembering correctly. But I've like really grown to like have some respect for her, like just as a person. So I'm glad to see, hopefully they don't drop that because I actually think once he gets a little bit of help, that would actually like, this could be a really good relationship. I will say what I did notice about him in this scene was that it did seem like he was having trouble acknowledging what had happened. The way he was phrasing things, like not quite wanting to say it as blunt as it was, but still owning up to it in his own weird way. I'm not sure if you guys saw the exact same thing.
No, I saw that.
But like using slightly softer wording for everything, and maybe even hesitating a little parts, but he kept plowing through because it was a genuine apology. Like he did feel bad about it.
Right.
But I think he was having a little trouble acknowledging exactly how much he'd screwed up. So I was acknowledging that. I'm like, yeah, the sweet taste of having trouble acknowledging your own screw ups.
Yeah, I hope there will become a point where he can like be like, I screwed up, like I apologize for it. I hope that there will become a time, but I don't think now is time where he can really be in the headspace to do that. But I hope that might
I also think he is naturally someone who makes a lot of excuses for himself. I'm not saying that in the negative way people would say, because I do make excuses for myself sometimes. Like something happens, I'm like, oh, say something happens at work. Oh, I'm still new. I didn't know that was it. That's a valid excuse. But I have to work on making sure that I don't always sound like I'm trying to excuse myself instead of just being like, oh, my bad. Let me fix that.
Right.
Because I can't always excuse myself from stuff. So I got to work on taking some of the excuses out of my language. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's the same way. He's just trying to minimize his damage by excuses. And I will bring up again, there is a difference between explanations versus excuse.
Right.
For example, like the explanation for why I screwed up at work. I'm new. I didn't know that's what it is. But that's not excusing that I screwed up. No, that's me acknowledging I screwed up and having an explanation why, but I'm going to do better. Excuses are just avoiding responsibility. Sorry, EJ, I cut you off. Continue.
It's okay. No, I was just thinking with him, I've noticed that I think the way he feels better about himself is by kind of sugarcoating and minimizing what he's done. Because to him, it's not that big a deal.
He's an avoider too.
He's an avoider.
Oh, he's such an avoider.
So for him, it's it's easy for him to hook up with somebody because then there's none of that extra stuff. But there's gonna have to come a point that he's gonna realize. And I didn't really like the ultimatum either. I think it was pretty harsh on her to say that, but I get the reasons why she said it because I feel like she's just concerned because I don't think Owen would ever like lay a hand on her like physically. I don't think he would ever do that to someone.
Never.
Like he's mad at his spouse, or I don't think he'd ever do that to his son. But
he has anger issues, but he's not an abuser.
Right. And but she has a right to be concerned that like, look, I want him to get some help. So she should have phrased it differently, I think is the biggest thing. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, Katie, because I didn't like her using like that ultimatum. I feel like she should have phrased it differently. Like, look, like I want to be with you, but I want you to get some help.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then on the other hand, it's like, we want to make sure Owen gets help because Owen wants the help, not just because he's doing it for somebody else again.
Yeah. And, we see this at the end. And I would like to say, like, he's not an abuser. We clarified that just now.
Right.
However, this is not to say that anger managements don't lead, anger management issues don't lead to problems sometimes.
Well, we just saw evidence of that, 2 scenes already in the show.
Exactly. So like neither of these instances have we seen them raise their hands against someone they care about.
Yeah.
But just the instigation of bodily harm against somebody, there's a natural human fear. And so she has seen him punch people multiple times. So never saying Owen's an abuser because he is not. But she does have a right to be a little concerned.
Right.
Because all it takes is the one time that you forget who you're talking to, or you forget yourself, or something happens and something turns wrong. So
somebody goes off on your boyfriend because he comes and gives you the bad news that your dad was arrested for something.
Yes. And again, like that particular one is not abuse, but it's still.
What show was I talking about that? Yeah.
Never. So yeah, exactly.
I'm
My own
sorry. I
concerns-
literally that went
Katie's
over my head.
Katie's like, what are you talking about?
I'm so
But I got one.
I am so tired and my like
Nah.
sinuses are so like wild right now. So I am just like, huh?
I get it.
It took a second to figure that out. I was trying to piece it together in my brain.
You're like, who's boyfriend? Who's that?
I was about to be like, what show are you guys talking about? I'm not even kidding you.
Yeah.
If you guys didn't catch it, I'm referencing 212 where TK lays the hand on Carlos when he's mad at him for what was said. But again,
And
not
again, it
excusing
wasn't
what he did, but
no.
you know,
And
he
that
owned
there's
up
been
to it
endless
later.
debates.
Yeah.
There have
Oh,
been
yeah.
endless debates on that, which we're not going to get into because I think we made
Exactly.
our opinion
Done
on
and
that
over with.
clear.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Done and
I'm just
over with.
However,
mentioning-
like
Yeah.
I will say, just as an add-on, just like a continuation of what I was saying earlier, I myself am wary of dating anyone with anger issues because I acknowledge
Mhm.
there's a thin line.
Yeah.
Right.
that's true.
So all that is to say, I get where she's saying it. He's not an abuser. JK was never an abuser. Like, no abuse happening here. Just valid concerns.
Yeah.
I think we can move on.
Yes.
Let's do that. So
Yeah.
of course, this is our road rage scene, which just,
that was
This
pretty
one
intense.
hit.
this one hit. Okay, so Al and his family are driving because he's going to therapy. Like, okay,
And they're going to support him.
yeah,
I
liked
loved that.
Yeah,
Me too. I thought that was awesome.
yeah.
One thing I like about this family, like the wife and the son, is that they're never like furious at him. They
Right.
just want him to get help. They're supporting him. They're concerned about him. I was really
Mhm.
glad we didn't have that like alienation
Yeah.
from within the family.
Mm-hmm.
But so
Uh-huh.
this was really sweet. Anyway, let's move on.
Okay, so when they're driving, there's of course this guy that wants to pass him. So he's trying to let him pass him. And then of course the guy's like, like he's being a total like ass. Like so he like he does pass him and then he brake checks him and then like he throws a beer, like he's drinking a beer, obviously, and like they see him and then he
Yeah,
throws it on their
drinking.
windshield.
Drinking and driving and yeah.
Great, lovely. And then yeah, so then he throws it on their windshield and then he has a gun, so he's showing that off, like, I'm gonna shoot you. This is like, oh my god, like I know things like this have happened countless amount of times, but it still baffles me that like people actually do stuff like this. Then like of course like the car flips and it catches on fire, and I hate to say that that's karma, but like when you do shit like that, it kind of is. Not
Oh yeah, like the truck flipping, the truck with the guy. It's absolutely karma. And
Right. And the next clip,
'Cause-
seeing all those cars banged up and smashed and stuff, all because that one guy was drunk driving and being
drunk driving and pulling a gun, like there's a lot more than just drunk driving involved there. Like
Yeah.
those are some serious issues.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely, you hear all those stories of stuff that goes wrong here.
yeah,
And I'm just like, yeah. Anyhow, so
yeah,
so the truck with the guy, just to clarify, that's the one that goes flipping. In my opinion, you should not have survived that.
no,
Oh yeah. It was on fire from the inside. How did the drivers?
Plus, flipping enough people,
Yeah.
there's such a high chance when you flip that you break your neck, or
Oh yeah.
spine, or something,
I was
because you're
shocked when
going
he survived
off-
that crash.
I mean, I wasn't shocked just because they wanted to use him in some sort
True.
of storyline. So
Absolutely.
I was like,
But like realistically speaking,
realistically,
and we
he
won't
should
go
be
into
dead.
the realism because
Yeah.
again, drama show. But realistically speaking, just keep in mind, guys, you flip, there's a high chance you're gonna die
Uh-huh.
or
Mhm.
be permanently injured.
Right. And so, and then like of course the 126 responds. So
Owen
Owen
sees out.
and
I
he's
was like
like,
that.
please tell me you have nothing to do with this. And like he said, no, like we're on our way to therapy and stuff. And of course, like, this is emergency. They go to like the most dire situation, so they have to work on the guy that caused the accident and stuff. And it's not looking great for him. Like he has third degree burns, like, and like they don't like he is literally has no pulse until like they start working on him, and then they get him in the ambulance. And then of course this is when Mateo like recognizes Al and he starts talking to him and he asks if the other guy is going to survive and Mateo says yes and it looks looks like he's going to pull through and then of course Al gets closer and Owen is already like assessing the whole situation as it's happening
because they realize where's the gun.
Yeah, because Mitchell, who was there, which is the gal that usually works with Carlos, had mentioned that several of the witnesses had said he'd been waving a gun. And so she, once the passenger had gotten out of the car, the driver, she started looking through the truck to see where this gun was, and it was nowhere to be found. And Owen starts looking around for it. And I was like, then I think I saw the dawning on him at that one moment.
Yeah. And so then, like, you know, Mateo's talking to him, and then Owen's assessing us, and of course, all of a sudden you hear the gunshots go off, and Owen's like yelling gun, and then he's like going to tackle him. Not to mention, Nancy's in the back with the guy he's shooting. TK's in the front of the ambulance. And stuff. So Tommy, like after it all happened, like
she's yelling for them.
Like they're all running up there, and
just that scarring though. Like Nancy was right there. The guy got shot right in front of her, and one bullet goes astray or pings off something, she could have gotten hurt.
Yeah, I feel bad. Yeah, I feel bad for like all of them, but like. I feel like Nancy and Owen are like super affected. Like obviously they're all affected, but like just because like Owen, this is definitely a wake up call for him because he does not want to become this.
Right.
Literally, this is him seeing what he could become.
Exactly.
Right. And he like
this is the entire point of the scene.
Yeah. When he tackled the guy, he's like, "Why?" And the guy's like, "Because he hurt my family.
This is gonna hurt them more."
Yeah, and then you can see the wife and the son like getting out and they're looking like, oh my God, what just happened? And like during the scene, like Al and some of the others were like, why don't you come help us? You know, like leave him alone because they wanted the 126 to leave the guy who'd been the drunk driver alone and just take care of the other people. But unfortunately, in the situation, they had to take care of the most emergent thing, which was the fire in the car and the person inside that vehicle, regardless of most
critically injured gets taken care of first. That's triage. That is pure basic protocol. That is what happens. You even get taught that in basic CPR, first aid, AED classes. That's what you get taught. Worst off gets treated first because they need your help sooner. It doesn't matter what they've done. That's when you have to be professional and put your feelings aside because it doesn't matter. He could have gone and shot a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
And he could be worse off and they'd still have to take care of him. Now, if he'd done like a mass shooting or something, there would be multiple units. A lot of people could do this. No, this was not the case. There was like one RA unit.
Yeah.
There was just one.
Well,
I'm pretty sure they probably would have had another one coming for the minor injuries.
Yeah.
But first on scene, got to take care of that critical.
Well, and they're
it
triaging
sucks.
their others. It does.
But that's how it works.
And I could see Al was definitely mad about that because nobody was coming to help his family, which I can understand. You're upset. You know, you want to get taken care of. And you know,
like you have a right to be upset about it. You do have a right to be upset about it.
But then when he pulled the gun and his anger and that whatever phase he got into when he was so mad, he like shot that guy in cold blood, regardless of what. Like that guy deserved his time in court just like anybody else. I don't want to go there with anything else about the justice system. I'm not talking about that. I'm just meaning like he deserves to be put on trial for what he did. And Al just took it upon himself to honor it. It's like and that was the wake-up call for Owen.
You don't become a vigilante.
Yeah,
you don't take that upon yourself.
Yeah, don't play hero. No, because
it doesn't turn out in the movie like in the movies, guys. You're gonna get punished for it because that is at the very least second-degree murder.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even
first
worth
degree
it.
If they decide that it's premeditated, which I'm not sure if they will in this instant, but yeah.
He definitely couldn't get off by saying it's self-defense because the guy was already detained. There was no way they could.
And
you
it's
could
not
call it
manslaughter. It's not even minor enough. I would think for third degree murder, like that's at least second degree in my mind. So it made it so much worse. And you know what? His family would have healed, because the worst I heard of those injuries was like 2 broken wrists. That would have healed. They're never going to recover from this.
No, this is worse, because now this kid who I just based off what they said, he's like 17 years old, I would say.
Yeah.
Like now he has to go visit his dad in prison.
Right. And his dad's gonna go away for life. Like he's not gonna get just off in a couple of years. This is serious. So yeah,
Oh no,
you're right.
he's gonna get, if not life, many decades. And he doesn't have all that much left on him. Like, just frankly speaking, he is middle-aged.
Yeah.
I would say he's probably 50s, late 40s maybe.
He's probably in his 50s.
I'm thinking 50s. So, you know, just even a 20-year sentence, he's not gonna have that much longer on him. So yeah, this is just the power of thinking through things. But honestly, I did know this parallel in this that's kind of understated. I'm not even sure if they did intentionally or something. But my parallel that I noticed between him and Owen was that whenever Owen's had a blow up before, it's been protecting someone or in defense of his team or someone he cares about. Exact same here. It was defending his wife, his son, retribution after they got hurt.
Right.
All stuff that you would originally think is justified until it goes too far.
Well, just like Owen told Marjan earlier in the episode. Yeah. That's what Owen told Marjan earlier in the episode. Is like the last few people he punched was for he had justified reasons for doing it. I can't remember how he said it.
It was like unique circumstances, which bullshit. Yeah. They were all like, you could tie them together.
Absolutely. And yes, they were all in defense of somebody. And so you can't just look what that escalates into. That's the entire point of this. And I don't know if they even meant to do it like that. They probably did. I'm not sure if everyone caught on to that or something, but here, I just found that was really interesting. Like, it's all defense, it's all stuff you can excuse. Oh, they were just defending their family. Oh, it was just blah, 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 until it turns out into this. Again, Owen sees a possibility of what he could become.
And it's a wake-up call, like, for sure.
There's no reality check like that one.
Oh, yeah. Like, oh, yeah.
And I feel so bad for the wife and the kid, and yeah, and you know, even the guy who caused this, whoever he had back at home or something.
Yeah, I feel bad for his family. I don't feel bad for him, just
for
the fact like that he instigated this. So, like, not to say he deserved it, because obviously nobody deserves to be shot like that to death. But
it's also a high possibility that he almost did the same thing to that family. If he was going to pull that trigger, he could have killed them and other people, because moving vehicles, several tons of metal. Yeah. No justification, true. But still not good situation either way.
Right.
But as EJ said, he needed his time in court too.
Yeah. So then we move on to going back to the 126, and it's like hard seeing everyone because they're all going through like this, like their own former trauma, and it's like just raw seeing like this and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because they all had to watch that.
Right. Yeah. And I like what Owen said to everyone, because he's just like, hey, so I know there's not a lot I could say about what happened out there tonight. It shouldn't have happened, but it's nobody's fault except for the one person who's responsible. So I don't want anybody leaving this house thinking about, was there something more that you could do or have done? Because there wasn't. All right. I know some of you are going to play it around in your mind anyways, so I would advise you resist. I am incredibly proud of how you all behaved in the field today, all of you. It was admirable, as it always is with this team.
I loved that.
That was awesome.
Like
that was good. That
That was so good. And I was just like, uh yes. And then we get the Nancy and Mateo, which we'll get there. But they basically like run into each other and like they're both not paying attention. They're both like not fully there, which understandably so. And Mateo asks her like how is she holding up, and she says how her right ear is still ringing, but like Cap says that it should stop soon. And she just keeps thinking about the patient, how he looked at her as if like when he died, as if she let him down. And it's like you can't let yourself go there. But then Mateo kind of relates, saying how he was like talking to Alan, he didn't even notice the gun, and Mateo like says like I'm so stupid, and Nancy's like no, it's not on either of us, which I'm glad she brought that up because like it's not, and like you can't let yourself go there,
which is what Owen was pointing out in that speech he gave, was that don't do that, because you can't if you try to go back into those emotions and those thoughts, you'll just stay there, and then it's worse for you.
Right.
Exactly.
Because then you'll start questioning everything.
Like collective motion to send everybody in the 126 to therapy.
Yeah.
Who's not already in there.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, I kind of wish that had been brought up a little bit, but
Though I feel like more people are in therapy than we know about, just because of the stress of the job.
Oh yeah, 100%. Can we get like a 126 therapy scene? Because I'd really like that.
Yes.
Can we just
group therapy session?
Not even just group therapy, but just seeing them all in therapy, like collectively.
Again, another 911 like Christmas episode, 3rd season, like little glimpses. That's what I want.
Yeah,
that was a Christmas episode.
Parallel. I would love a parallel, guys. I'm just saying. Anyway, so then Mateo like asks Nancy like if she wants to get coffee, and she says yes. And I'm sorry, but everyone is saying, oh my god, they're dating now. Da, 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 da.
They're
not. Guys, shut up. Okay, this is my thought on it. Like, stop saying they're dating. Coffee does not equal dating.
Agreed.
And but like, well, they're trying to set something up. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. I don't like it.
I hope not.
I'm gonna say no.
No.
They're both going through a trauma. This is a trauma, and they should not be alone in this situation. So getting coffee is doing anything but being alone.
Nancy probably lives by herself. Mateo lives with Owen. Owen has his own stuff. So yeah, they needed each other to lean on.
So like,
and like, yes, is it possible they're going somewhere? Yeah, maybe. And I'm going to be upset if it is.
Okay, if this had happened,
they can go get coffee without it being a date.
Men and women can be friends without it being anything more.
That's just okay.
I mean, if we want to go under that like line of thinking, okay, Buddy has gone on a date like 50 million times by now. Every time they've gone for coffee or breakfast after work, just please. But under that line of thinking, that is what has happened.
Okay, but like
deal with it all.
But okay, but the one thing that is just like so okay, so like if Mateo went out to coffee with Paula after this, if the roles were reversed, nobody would be saying, "Oh, you're dating," or if Nancy went out to
Marjan.
Or if Nancy
people would say that with Nancy and Marjan, because that's what people.
I was gonna say if Nancy and Tommy went out after, nobody'd be like, "Oh my god, you're dating!"
Right?
So
get some perspective, guys.
It's like I don't ship it.
I do not at all ship it.
And I think this was.
I have about as much regard for it as I did the idea of Marjan and Mateo. Yeah. Hell no.
Well,
no.
I think a lot of this too is, Nancy lost Tim, and TK, moved into Tim's position. So, and we haven't seen Nancy outside of work really, aside from a few 126 hangs at TK and Carlos's. So it's kind of one of those, we don't know what her friend group looks like. Does she, is she from the area? Does she have friends and family around, or is she by herself? So she needed a friend at the time.
Or maybe she and Mateo go get coffee sometimes. Though I did feel like this was more of a first time thing. But that's not implausible.
And people are only saying this because of what happened in episode 8. Again, trauma.
Oh, yeah.
Like TK and Owen could have died. Like trauma. Like, come on. You know how they held
hands when we were waiting to find out if the plane was going to crash or land.
I forgot about that.
But
yeah, guys, trauma. It's not. This is what being supportive looks like. You go out for coffee, and you talk, or maybe you don't talk. You you just talk about random shit and forget life's hard. Anyhow, so no, guys, just no.
No. Yeah, exactly. And then we see Tommy go home and overhearing a story Julius is telling about Charles, and it's so sweet because he's telling it to the girls before they go to bed. And I'm like, oh,
I thought that was so sweet.
It was so sweet. And Tommy hadn't heard the story, so seeing her listen in without them knowing, and it was sweet. And then of course, she's sitting down trying to pretend that she wasn't just totally listening in with her ear at the door. Right. And then she once he comes out and sees that she's there, she invites him to stay because they have a guest bedroom, and she says, as long as you're in town, you can stay here so that way the girls can have you. And that was so big of her because she had her issues, but I think she realized that he really tried to be there, but for him it was hard.
And I think in this case it's family. Family first is important, especially when you lost one of your family, because even more so then.
And I think she even says she wants to have all of Charles's people Charles loves under one roof or something like that.
Yes, that was so sweet. Oh,
I thought that was sweet. Yeah. So again, I hope we see more of him.
You might.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to see him with the girls more, because he's the fun Uncle Julius.
Right. Oh yes. And then we end at the moment we have all been waiting for, Owen going back to therapy. Yay!
And yes, with him being what do you want to talk about, or what's going on or something? And Owen's just rage, and I'm yes,
rage. I have rage, and I'm just
was that 305?
Yeah.
306 of 909. Is that the title?
I think it was 305 of
I just remember because that was the episode that had the rage room in.
Oh, that was
the rage room and the cage fights.
Yes. Oh, my favorite.
A lot of rage issues here, people.
And Eddie getting arrested for punching the guy.
Though that was valid. I'm just gonna say. Anyway, we've completely analyzed that episode before. I still say it's valid. But
yes.
Finally, Owen is in therapy, and again, he's in it of his own free will,
which is what I love. He did. He realized after that final road rage thing, and with Al, and he realized that I don't want to become that, and that's where my life could go, and I don't want to go there, so he goes back to therapy. And I'm so proud, and also just so happy that he made that choice and that he made it for him. Yes. And that was the perfect way to just end this episode, and it's the perfect segue for the next couple episodes with him and what he's gonna be dealing with.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
I'm so
for
excited
what's coming
too.
now. I feel we're really approaching a big Owen growth moment, which we have been needing for a while.
And
I'm so happy.
Same.
I'm happy about it.
This was definitely a good episode. I mean, there were things I didn't like, but of course that happens every once in a while.
That happens, yeah.
But I definitely, I don't know, I really liked the layout of this episode. I liked the connection of the calls, even if I didn't like all the calls.
It was a good storyline.
And it impacted everyone. It impacted Owen. We're gonna see him grow from this. Also, where the frick was Paul in this episode?
Yeah, I don't think he said anything.
I don't think
Did
so
he?
either. I don't even
If he did, it was like
seeing
one
Paul. I was
I'm
just
pretty sure he was
there.
in there. He was there.
He was there like when they were waiting for Marjan to come back. Him, Paul, Mateo, and Marjan, or when Marjan was talking to Owen. He was there. He didn't talk. I don't know.
And he was at the restaurant or the fast food place.
I remember him
I'm
in the
pretty
restaurant.
certain.
I don't remember him like
But
when
I don't think
they
he
showed who was
speaks
there.
much.
Because him and Judd were pictured there. I mean, you could imply that he was there, but still lacking presence. That's all I'm gonna say. But other than that,
we miss Paul.
great.
Bring him back.
I love Paul.
I love Paul. We
We
need his wisdom, his sage wisdom to guide us.
Can I just say that, like, if he wasn't like really in this episode, that makes sense because impulse control, and I feel like Paul would just be like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" Because
he would shut that all down so fast.
That's exactly what I mean. So this might have been planned.
Yeah,
we do need Paul's Spidey sense, though. Give us back his Spidey sense.
I would have liked to have some Carlos in it too.
That too, but we also just got Carlos.
See, that's been the biggest complaint I've seen is that people are like, Carlos isn't in this. Like, they've been so upset. I'm like, we literally just got episode after episode after episode of good Carlos content. Of course we miss him, but like
it's nothing.
This is not at all directed towards you, just clarifying EJ. But for everyone else, stop making it into a bigger deal than it is.
Oh yeah, totally. No, I understand. My thing is, it's like we keep getting like Mitchell was in this one, and I'm like, well, if Mitchell was there, why was it Carlos? Because they usually partner up. So just little things like that. Not that we need him, because I know he could have been filming other scenes, or something. But
again, like it would have been nice to have seen because there's never too much Carlos content.
Right.
But like it's not like Buttercup where we haven't seen him for multiple episodes, even though we did technically just see him last episode. But usually speaking,
still would like to see Buttercup again.
Yes.
Just
hello. We don't want it on every 10 episodes basis.
I feel like we're the only ones that really notice Buttercup's not there.
Yeah,
because we're the only ones that bring it up every week. We can claim that title. Thank you very much.
Number one Buttercup fans, yes. I will happily take that title.
Oh yes, we can.
Though I think Katie might be out of all of us the number one notice Buttercup, because you're always the one out of all of us who brings it up. Buttercup wasn't in this episode.
I love Buttercup. Okay,
you do, and it's perfect.
But I also love dogs, so that's probably why.
True.
Right.
True.
Okay, so
fan thoughts.
Fan thoughts, yes. But first, TJ thoughts.
TJ thoughts.
Okay, so TJ says it was honestly funny and drama filled, not saying that in a bad way, but that was a lot for Tommy. That crazy dad, oh my god, I couldn't stop laughing, of course, until he pulled the gun out on the guy and everything. Other thoughts too. Awesome, it gets better every week. It was great. I'm glad they touched on Owen going to therapy, and I like Mateo and Nancy idea. Whatever that may mean. I know a lot of people like the idea of Mateo and Nancy, and I will never get there.
I will add, though, I'm not quite as repulsive as I am at the thought of Marjan and Mateo together, which was a huge thing for a while. But
and
still,
Marjan
I'm
and
not
Paul.
in it. Oh my god, yes.
It's like whenever people ask about that, I'm like, they're friends, they're siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other half platonically speaking,
yeah. Last one says, well, it didn't have much of Tarlos. It did finally address Owen's anger issues. Why did it take a murder out of anger to get Owen to realize he has to go to therapy again versus his team/girlfriend? He frustrates me. Also, he has lost depth from the first in second season. I miss him and TK's relationship. Like, we haven't got a lot of scenes with them. It's like they aren't talking to each other. That's fair.
Who I missed who that was about.
TK and Owen.
I wouldn't say it as much as like they're not talking to each other, but like we just haven't gotten scenes, which we should get scenes. I'm just saying.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily think that like they aren't talking to each other, but I feel like it's fair just because we don't see it. So I understand why people are saying that. But I do stand by the fact that like I didn't want Owen to go to therapy for anybody else. That I want him to do it for Catherine. I didn't want him to do it for anybody at the 126, including his son. Mm-hmm. It should have been for him, which obviously that's what it was. And he's not doing it for anybody. He's not doing it because of what happened. He's real. He's, in a sense, he is, because he's real, but only in the sense that he
saw what is coming.
He saw what he got the vision of what his life could be like if he doesn't get his life under control. And that's
right, exactly
what that was.
Yeah. Honestly, I am going to do a little bit of a like, I don't know, just think about alcoholics and drug users. Think about how often they don't get help because of other people wanting it, needing it, etc. They might try, but they can't because, again, you can't do that shit for other people. And think of how often it takes something drastic to get someone to do it. This is not an Owen exclusive thing. This, again, alcoholics, drug users, anger management, people with deep issues like this that often link back to other stuff, they don't want to confront it. Often because they're so often putting up a front that everything's okay. Again, like Owen is. So the whole thing about how it takes a murder, yes, but no. Because, again, that was something drastic that's needed, but also think of the times that alcoholics, drunk driving, they kill someone. Drug users, OD, almost die, or die on the table and are brought back. Like, think about how often it has to be something life or death related to get a reality check. So yes, but no, if that makes any sense. Just a little bit of perspective. It's not just Owen, and this is not actually anything that unusual.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm actually excited for like these next couple episodes because it's gonna be like good to see how this unravels with Owen and his like journey. So we see him in therapy, and his therapist tells him to close his eyes and ask him what he sees, and he says how he sees smoke, and then we see a fire call or of some sorts, and we see in like the dispatch center Grace saying how like the rescue is 3 minutes out, and we finally see Dave, which we were talking about just like off podcast, that like we haven't seen Dave in a while, and then of course a week later this comes out, because I think I was the one that brought it up. I was like, yeah, we haven't seen Dave in a while, like I wonder if they're gonna ever bring him back. And then we get this a week later. Love
That's
that.
Amazing.
And like Dave says like how he's not gonna make it, and then Judd has like this speech that he like this line he says that's like overall this stuff happening, saying like being a hero is not the like in the saves, it's in like carrying on after a loss. And like Dave is in their house, which it was referred to in the synopsis of something like Judd takes in, like they take in a house guest, but Grace is like Judd does more than Grace was anticipating or something like that. And I'm like, okay, so Dave is the house guest, I guess. That should be interesting.
Yep.
And
if he's gonna eat them out of house at home. Just thinking about precedent. Like,
oh my god, yes. And like this episode's supposed to have a clown call. And I'm like, oh,
that's gonna be hard for some people.
Hey, yes, if I had to deal with a bird, you could deal with a clown. Just saying.
True.
Just saying, it's not your turn.
Like I don't really care about clowns. Like that isn't a problem for me. But
okay, for
a lot of people that is.
Okay, when I was in the movie theater like many years ago, and I saw the preview for the Joker, I had to look away, not gonna lie. So it did freak me out a little bit. But like actual like clowns don't freak me out. But yeah, I'm kind of excited for this one.
It sounds very interesting.
I know,
like,
it's just So good.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see, and I'm interested to see the whole thing. This next one is the one with his estranged father, right? Or is that the
No,
one
that's the one after, but we are going to be
okay. I am very excited for the one concerning his father.
episode 16, which obviously we'll talk about that.
Yes, we will talk about it when we get a promo for it. But like, yeah,
so
I
next
completely
week.
Mixed up my episodes. Yes.
No, it's okay.
Tune in later, guys, for this thrilling drama.
Oh yes, I'm excited.
Sounded like an old TV show. Okay. Tune in next week. Anyway. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor, and we are also on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, and everywhere you can get your podcasts. On iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would definitely mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911 LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be sure to join our Discord server. The link will be in the description of this podcast and also in our Instagram bio.
You guys can follow me, Katie, at FloveTarlos on Instagram and at ForLoveTarlos on Twitter.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and at SheepGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.